We're back again, and it's another Air Force One, it's another Flyknit, and I'm saying another because of these right here. We've got the Wolf Greys that already dropped recently, and I already did a video about those guys, and I paired it up with its partner sneaker, the Blacks, and they were the two of the most recent Flyknit Air Force Ones that came out, and I talked about them in great detail, and I totally appreciated how the silhouette shone through the Flyknit, because it's kind of difficult to do. When you look at a regular Air Force One, I'll check something up here, a lot of leathers on there that give definition to the toe, to the panels, to the midfoot, all that kind of stuff. But then if you come across to a Flyknit sneaker, it's a whole lot more difficult. And if we look at those Wolf Greys, they really did a great job of getting that Flyknit in there and then adding some structure to it in the different knit in the different parts of the shoe. And that's a really important detail, and it's pretty much the main detail as to why I chose to do this shoe today. It was only a couple of weeks ago I did those Flyknit videos about the Blacks and the Wolf Greys, and then here I am very quickly following on with the pink and purples, and it's because of that little detail in the Flyknit and that it's gone just a little too far. The Air Force One line has pushed it a little too far this time, pushed the envelope just a little too far, and we'll get into that today. But then we'll also look at some of the fire hits on these shoes that are standard but also unique to this shoe as well. So on top of all that, you've got the unique stuff which makes these guys very, very cool in and of themselves. So you've got a lot to look forward to as we take a close-up look at the upcoming release of the Nike Air Force One Flyknit 2.0 pink and purple. This is the Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel. Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel です。毎日アップするので、毎日見てください. Every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker sneaker reviews. I wonder how many times I've said that. So I must be getting on for 900. I should calculate that. I keep forgetting to calculate how many consecutive days we've been on YouTube without missing a single day. I'm serious when I say it's close to 900. And soon we'll get on to that 1,000 mark, which I really hope to get to without missing a single day. So fingers crossed on that. But yeah, in the spotlight today, it's an Air Force One Flyknit 2.0 women's pink and purple. So there's a lot going on in the shoe. But for me, there's the title of this video is all about pushing things a little bit too far. And what I mean about that is if we go back to those Wolf Greys, I think it was, and I said already in the video that they did a great job on the Wolf Greys of making the structure and the silhouette of the Air Force One come out of the Flyknit. So we look at the toe area and you can see definition between the overlay and the panel, or you look at the midfoot area and you can see definition between the midfoot and the ankle and things like that. So there's enough definition in there to make it look like an Air Force One, even though it's top to toe Flyknit all across the shoe. But then when we come to today's shoe, and this is why I think it went a little too far, it's kind of lost to me. They've lost that kind of silhouette, that echo of the Air Force One silhouette, because all the Flyknit just melds in together, and there's too much that it has taken too much, like to look closely at these guys to find the Air Force Ones in them. So I'm afraid for me, it's a little bit too much Air Force Ones, a little bit too much Flyknit. They haven't really got that separation of panels and separations of sections on there. And that's what I mean in the title of this video about they've gone a little bit too far, because I think with this one, they've just gone a little bit too far. And it's mainly about the Flyknit. I've got this great shot right here of the toe of the shoe, and you can see right into that Flyknit there. And it's because it's got so much detail and so many colors going on that there's too much in it for you to have a distinct area on the shoe like the toe box where the panel and the overlays would be, because of all that color going on in there. And it's not just one pink and one purple. Hopefully what you're seeing on the green screen here is that multitude of colors that goes in there, and because of that it's very hard to have a distinct areas on the shoe. So for me, maybe they should have toned it back a little bit more on the colors and had a few less so that you could get those distinct areas on the shoe, or maybe they should have done something different with the knit to make it really pop out. If you think of like a toe box of an original Ultra Boost, for example, they did a great job of separating out the sections of the shoe, even though the whole upper part of the shoe of that was the Prime Knit from the Adidas line. And that's the thing that I feel like is missing here. It's just too uniform. The top part of the shoe is, I think we've got a medial side picture, and you can see the whole medial side of the shoe, and it just looks like one uniform piece of fabric, which is exactly what Flyknit is. It's just one uniform piece of fabric, but they're trying really hard for it to feel like more than that. And that's what lets me down on this shoe, is that it's not doing what I think they really want it to do. But the flip side of that is it's definitely doing something that they definitely wanted it to do in the other end of that spectrum. So the bit that I wasn't so happy with is balanced out with the bit that I think is absolutely fire. And what I'm talking about is the outsole on these guys. Now, of course, the move to zero, if you guys know anything about the move to zero, it's Nike's efforts to push the brand towards a more sustainable recycled base, so that they've got the Flyknit recycling, and they've got lots of different rubbers that are upcycling and things like that. And when it comes to the outsole and the midsole, it's this crater foam that they're talking about, where they've got, you know, used up rubber, offcuts of rubber that didn't make it into shoes in somewhere else in the line or in the brand, and they recycle that, put it into the shoes, and they do it in a chunky way, so that if you're looking at the midsole, for example, right now, you'll be able to see that it is not smooth and clean. They've got these chunks of rubber that have been sort of, you know, mixed in and then frozen in there. So it's a very cool and a very sustainable kind of technology. But that's not what interests me about the midsole and the outsole. What interests me about it is the front and back. It's bookended by these kind of lime green panels and sections, which traditionally in Air Force Ones have stars, and they do have those stars in here, but they're very, very powerful, very strong piece of branding at the front and the rear ends of the outsole there. You can really see the stars with great definition that you wouldn't normally see on an Air Force One outsole. So that whole upper being kind of uniform for me is balanced out by the outsole having these two distinct areas, front and back, that are very different from the rest of the outsole. So there are, you know, still interesting things on the shoe, still things that are worth, you know, getting into. And if you're interested in your Air Force Ones, especially Flyknits, I'm sure you'll find some stuff in the shoe that you appreciate. For example, since we've already talked about the move to zero, we might as well have a look at the tongues and the insoles, because on the insoles, and they've been doing this a lot recently, where they put in an insole that is in complete contrast to the rest of the color of the actual shoe. So in the case of these guys, it's kind of pinks and purples is suddenly offset with a volt yellow insole. But the main detail on that is actually the 8 swooshes in a circle, which make up the Move to Zero initiative brand, all about trying to make shoes and the production of shoes more sustainable. So that's the insole, but then just below that, you've got the branding up there on the top of the tongue, standard Air Force One branding, Nike Air, Air Force One, or if you read it really fast, Nike Air Force One, but it's standard branding up there at the top of the tongues. But what's not standard branding is the branding that you get on the heels. So let's flip these guys around and have a look at the back, and you can see that it is debossed into the fabric, not embossed out of the fabric. It's debossed into the fabric, which is a unique element of the Flyknit Air Force Ones. Usually that branding on there would be embroidered, or it would be embossed coming off of the branding panel. And that also leads us on to the second feature on there, because what we're talking about is that branding panel. You can see it's got a sort of felt feel to it, and if you go around to the swoosh, you'll see that the swoosh on the side also has a felt feel to it, and it's again recyclable materials, all about that Move to Zero initiative to try and make the Air Force One line, the Nike line in general, more sustainable. And those felt swooshes on the side are a part of that. And then they're also completing a set of 3 with that heel branding, the swooshes, and then the wraparounds on the laces, where the lacing system is and the eyelets are. So that kind of completes the set of white felt that is laid across the top of this very colourful Flyknit upper in pink and purple. So a lot going on in the shoe. Interesting sort of hits on the colour. The green on the outsole sort of contrasts with the pinks and the purple of the Flyknit, but then all of that contrasts with the volt yellow of the insole, which is a really interesting choice of colours to go within there. And like I say, that's a recent trend with a lot of shoes at Nike. The most recent one I saw, it was a green insole. Gosh, I can't remember what the shoe was though, and but it was totally in contrast to the rest of the shoe, and that's kind of a thing right now, is to have these insoles that contrast with the rest of the shoes, which these surely do in their volt yellow with the black swooshes on there as well. And that's pretty much today's video. You know, like I said, another look at the Flyknit Air Force Ones, but it's because this one has lost that silhouette, lost that echo of the original OG Air Force Ones. That's why I thought we'd have a look at it today, so close to another recent video about the Air Force One Flyknit. So hopefully you appreciate my perspective on that, my take on that, and you'll let us all know in the comments down below what your feeling is on these guys, and especially if you're going to go ahead and try and grab yourself a pair on June the 4th. They're coming out in about a couple of weeks time, maybe 10 days time. So if you're interested, good luck to you, fingers crossed. Hopefully you grab yourself a pair. For now though, it's time for me to wrap this one up and just finish off. It's Friday night, just moving into Saturday morning, and I've got some kit to get, so I'm going to head off and do that, but I'll do what I do at the end of every single video before I do that, which is remind you that I do this every single day. And that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.